Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this special Issues of the Day program on governance in the Bahamas. It has been 3 years since the Progressive Liberal Party lost control of the government of the Bahamas. In those 3 years, the country has seen the greatest recession in living memory, and social services have been under severe stress. Today we have come to the headquarters of the P.L.P., the Sir Lyndon Pindling Center at Gambia House, to assess not only the performance of the present government, but that of the official opposition. And then we wish to assess the preparedness of the P.L.P. on the major issues impacting our country today. We're going to have several segments on this program. The first will deal with the economy. And around our table here today, we have Senator Jerome Fitzgerald, the candidate for Marathon for the next general elections, Senator Michael Halkitis, the candidate for Golden Isles, Attorney Arnold Forbes, who we understand is a potential candidate of the party, as well as Dr. Michael Davil, who is also a potential candidate. He is a senator as well. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Since the four of you will be dealing initially with the economy of the Bahamas, we want to go around the table and we are going to ask you to give us 90 seconds on your assessment of the performance of the economy of the Bahamas between May of 2007 and May of 2010. Senator Fitzgerald.
I think first we have to begin at 2007 and look at where the economy was at that point. And the economy was probably at an all-time high. Everything was going well. And then the government changed. And some decisions, I think, were made at that point which negatively impacted our growth. And we can see from that point that we start to have negative growth. This is even before the U.S. recession set in 2008. And when you look at it as a whole, I think that the stop, review, and cancel policy contributed greatly to some of our economic decline. And then we had the recession, and so that, the worldwide recession, and that impacted us in a negative way. Part of the issue is that, first of all, to a great extent, when the depression or the recession set in, the policies of the government were not sufficiently reactive to deal with what was coming. And you will recall that it took them some time even to accept that our economy was in decline. And that started to exacerbate some of the problems with our economy that were setting in. And so I think part of the issue moving forward now is, now that the government, in the view of many people, have stumbled even in light of what is happening worldwide. What do we do moving forward now to try and correct that? And it's going to be very interesting to see how the government proposes to deal with that in the upcoming budget.
Senator Halkitis?
Thank you. I would characterize the economy from 2007 to the present time as one where the economy has been shrinking. We have experienced negative growth. Joblessness has increased. As a result of that, we see that government's revenues have suffered. We've experienced, in each budget, we've experienced deficits. As a result of that, the government debt has increased. The headroom in terms of the amount of debt that you have in the economy that was present has now been exhausted. We're in a very tight spot. This upcoming budget, we understand it would be a very austere budget. There will be freezes on promotions and increments, etc. And so we see where what I would describe as tinkering around the edges is going to happen. And I think, I'm not sure that the government has had an appreciation over the last 3 years of how serious the situation is. I think that they have perhaps hoped that we would have emerged very quickly out of the recession that we are in, and not really had an appreciation that perhaps we were seeing more fundamental changes in the global economy, and that following on that, we in the Bahamas have to have some fundamental changes in our economy. We're in a very tight spot. And I think climbing out of this hole is going to be a pretty long process.
Dr. David.
Yes, well, good morning, Mr. Jones and colleagues. The performance of the economy in 2007 to 2010, as far as I'm concerned, from the indicators that I see, has been unacceptable. And the performance is directly related to the performance of the government. What I see is the correlation between the two factors. I feel, just like Senator Halkita said, that the government initial process of moving through this economic crisis was too slow. A lot of policies and things that should have been in place in the initial stages of the crisis were not seen. And this is actually related to a lack of vision, as far as I'm concerned, on behalf of this present administration. I think that one of the key factors for moving us out of the present situation that we're in the initial stages was the government to establish policies, solid policies that would have cushioned us, as well as the government stop, cancel, and review policies actually put us behind. And like many of our other Caribbean countries, I think that our performance is not up to par as it should be, and as a result, we are now in the state that we're in with great difficulties in the way forward and how to adjust this new budget to compensate and to re-establish the right protocol for the country to move forward.
Mr. Forbes.
Yes, Mr. Jones. And going further on what Senator Halkitis had mentioned, I don't think the economy is shrinking. We are in free fall presently.
It's in a free fall.
That's the only thing that I can see. I think we're in free fall. Unemployment is at an all-time high of 20%. Our debt to GDP ratio is 50% or thereabouts, or approaching that. National debt is $4 billion. If we were to spread that $4 billion over every Bahamian citizen, man, woman, and child, every Bahamian citizen would be responsible for $11,000 of debt. If you cut it even further and you look at let's say 150,000 Bahamians are presently in the workforce, that would be over $25,000 per Bahamian as far as debt is concerned. The next generation to come will be burdened with untold debt, as far as I can see. I think it's almost scary to even consider that. All right, and there's no plan in place to fight it. The dam is bursting, and we're trying to plug it with our fingers. I think unless we can put in place some rigorous, sensible, and wholesome measures, I think we will continue to free fall as far as debt is concerned, the economy is concerned.
Gentlemen, thank you for your opening statements. Let's ask you some questions, and feel free, any one of you can answer the questions. If the P.L.P. were running the government of the Bahamas, what policies and programs do you think could be put in place to ameliorate the economic debacle that we have? The fact of the matter is that most governments in our region are stressed and are facing these difficult situations and finding it very difficult to govern. What would a P.L.P. administration do to ameliorate the situation?
Well, let me first start by saying, again, you have to go, it's hard to just take it in isolation and say, what will we do today, and we can get to that. But when you look at the amount of missteps that were taken along the way, Mr. Jones, again, over the last 3 years, our economy has declined. The only other economy in the Caribbean that's declined greater than ours is the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And so when you hear the government talking about how the other countries are doing, it's really just trying to take focus off the fact that over the last 3 years, the government has done a poor job at, first of all, accepting and understanding what was going on. That was the first point. When they came in, they were almost intoxicated with joy at how